cultural presentation number one, and the culture that I've chosen or that I'm going to be talking about is that of South Africa. We'll start with the introduction and geography of that country. South Africa, officially the Republic of South Africa, is located at the southern tip of Africa. It has about 1,739 miles of coastline that stretches along the South Atlantic and Indian Oceans. Its neighbors to the north include Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe. And you can see it on this map, a little map here. This is Namibia here, there's Botswana here, and there is Zimbabwe here. And to the east is Mozambique and Swaziland. You can see Mozambique here, and there's Swaziland right here. Then within it, there's Lesotho that lies within South Africa. You can see Lesotho right here in this white little coloration here. That's Lesotho right there. So that is the map of South Africa. And South Africa is the 25th largest country by land in the world. And it has close to 53 million people. It is the world's 25th most populated nations. About 80% of its population is of black ancestry. That is a little bit about the geography of that country. Like I said, it is the most southern state or most southern country in the continent of Africa. It's right down there. Another aspect about this country that will interest you is art. Art has been a big thing in South Africa, and their arts it includes one of the oldest objects which was discovered dating back like 750 years ago. And art is those that are mostly influential when it comes to art in South Africa are the Khoisan people. I mean, you see their arts today mostly in caves, in cave paintings in caves, like this one that you can see here. I have a picture of it here. That is some little bit of South African arts. And it's also away from that art that goes with arts, you're gonna have like the literature of South Africa. We have one of well-known novels written by black authors in African language, which is Solomon Tekiso in his novel Plages Moody. That was in 1930. That is some little bit of literature linked with art over there. Another aspect of South African culture that I'll be talking about is cuisine. In other words, food in South Africa. We all must have known, especially here in the United States, that people from Africa take a lot of delight with what they eat. They value the food a lot. And meals in South Africa are quite unique. But what noticing about South African meals is that most of their food is kind of meat-based. There's a lot of meat in South African food. And you can see a picture here of some sort of barbecue. That's what I could get for you. That's to do with some meat on it, and a large variety of South African food is enjoyed by South Africans themselves, as well as tourists and visitors who come from different countries who want to like to sample different foods, and they really do enjoy it. And this South African meal, especially those that are meat-based, are enjoyed in most South African social gatherings, which is some of them popularly known as a braai, or in other words, barbecue. And the South Africa has actually developed into a major winery in the world. They now produce a lot of wine in South Africa. And some of the best vineyards in the valleys of South Africa include those in Stellenbosch, Franschhoek, Pearl, and Barodel. They have a lot of wine in South Africa. Personally, I've enjoyed a lot of wine from South Africa. I have a cousin of mine who usually ships a lot of South African wine to my country, Cameroon. And hopefully I'll get some more of that wine when I go home this December. Another aspect of South African culture is work. How is a typical work day in South Africa structured? How many hours do people have to put in to work in South Africa? Well, there's not much difference between the work situation in South Africa and that of the United States. When you look at it, typically South Africans, just like here in the United States, they put in an acceptable number of hours a week, which is 40. Same like here in the United States, that is like state law. Then they work typically from Monday to Friday, for especially for those corporate or office jobs. The, and the number of hours that they put in per day at work actually depends on the company. For example, office jobs is 8 hours, 8 hours a day for office job. But when you move on to like the entertainment industry, you see it changing. They mostly do 12 hours, like 7 in the morning to 7 at night. Another person takes 7 at night to 7 in the morning. That is how it is structured in South Africa. A typical workday in South Africa starts at 8 o'clock and ends at 5 o'clock. And they usually will give you get 1 hour of lunch break, which is usually between 12 noon and 1 p.m. Another aspect of South African culture will be etiquette at home. Like most cultures are, when you visit somebody's home, for example, you are an American and you visit a typical African home here in the United States, you get to discover that the way the kids act, the way the parents act, the way things are structured in that home are usually most often different from the contemporary American way of life. And at home in South Africa, children are expected to respect their parents. One of my other presentations, I mentioned respect. That actually has equally influenced my life to this point that I'm talking with you. Respect is a really big thing, I think, in the whole of Africa. I have not heard of any country in Africa where respect is not regarded or where respect is just one of those things out there. So children in South African homes owe a lot of respect to their parents and their elder brothers or sisters. When they get up in the morning, they are expected to check on their parents, greet their parents, and find out how they slept. And they assist children in South African homes, assist in household chores like washing dishes, cooking, cleaning, and laundry. And they are expected or they are obliged to uphold the family name when they go out there. And that is what they call charity begins at home, in other words. So the way you were nurtured in that home, the ethics that you exhibit in that home exactly reflect how you're going to act out there. So that's why I linked it with out there. And so that is to say that when they go out there, they have some certain behavioral pattern that they have to follow so that they can uphold the family name, which is very important in South Africa and also in my country, Cameroon. Children in a typical South African home, they eat with permission from their parents or senior ones or whoever cooked the meal. It's about the same thing in my culture, meaning that unlike in the United States where some kids might just go to the fridge every time they feel like they want to eat, they just go to the fridge, get whatever they want to eat. It's different in South Africa. If you want to eat, you tell your mom, "Oh, mom, I'm hungry." If you think that from the last time you ate to that moment, it's been time enough for you to be hungry, then you can get something to eat. And the family eats the main meals of the days together, like lunch and dinner, sometimes breakfast. So they sit around the table and eat like a family. I think that is applicable in most parts of the world too. Another thing about South African culture is breaking the law. What typically happens if you break the law in South Africa? Now, capital punishment used to be the order of the day right before the apartheid was abolished in 1994. Before then, capital punishment was the major form of punishment meted out to anybody that was found breaking the law. And that capital punishment in most cases was for those that committed crimes like murder and real like serious crimes that have to be looked at by the government in place or state. So, but this came to pass. This was abolished in 1990 before the when the apartheid, which was racial segregation by white minorities in Africa, when it came to an end, capital punishment came to an end also. But in recent years, there has been the talk in South African government about the need to bring back capital punishment, especially recently when there was the trial of the with the famous Blade Runner, Oscar Pistorius. There were some talks or some reports that some people felt that capital punishment should be brought back to limelight in the South African society. Um, um, Now, other crimes are tried at local courts, like stealing and other little crimes around. Now, for in the homes, crimes at home are treated domestically, and some of the punishments that parents might want to give to the children include refusing them food that night, giving them time out, using a whip on them. It's very common in Africa to use a whip on a child as a corrective measure. That is a major difference that you would not find around the United States. People have so, but in Africa it's different. You can actually use a whip on your kid if they do something wrong. It depends the gravity of the crime that they committed. And also in homes, there are other ways of punishing them or following up with a crime that a kid commits, which includes counseling or advice in cases of certain misbehaviors. You know, we'll also be looking at etiquette in the South African public, and that particularly would concern a lot more people traveling to South Africa. You would want to know, how do I behave in public? How do I behave in a restaurant? How do I dress? And all of those things. In this segment, we'll be looking at etiquette in South Africa. And in South Africa, the guidelines suggest that you wear what you normally wear when you're in urban parts, but you just have to dress nicely. You know, in South African urban cultures, people usually wear typical Western attire, just like you would find in London, the United States, and some other parts of the world. But they say you shouldn't wear sneakers or shorts unless it's a casual attire, such as going for a barbecue, taking a walk, or going to the beach. They will tell you you don't cut bread rolls. Instead, break them into small bite-sized pieces on a side plate when you're eating. Those are some of the little things that if you go to South Africa, you might want to look into and observe and try to practice, because they say while in Rome, do what the Romans do. And then they say don't leave food on your plate when you're done eating. That is really a South African thing. We also look at family structures. You would believe with me, or you would agree with me, that scholars of the African tradition hold that the one thing that distinguishes Africa from the rest of the world is the family structure, the structure of a typical African family. It's different, say, from that of, say, European or American family. And that what makes that distinction is polygamy. I laugh when I mention polygamy because I am from a polygamous home, and I can tell you without even reading the books what a polygamous home in an African setting, in this our situation, in this case we're talking about South Africa, how a polygamous home in South Africa looks like, and the downsides or the shortcomings of a polygamous setting in South Africa. And the type practiced in South Africa is called polygyny, or my pronunciation, where a man has plural wives or more than one wife, 2, 3, 4, 5. The case of my father had 7 wives, and my mom was the last wife. That's just a little bit of aside. And in South Africa, the man builds a compound that has little apartments depending on how many wives he's got, and each of those apartments does harbor those wives.